So the Steam Deck received a small but critical feature. The only problem is that it's only going to be available for some Steam Deck users. I'm going to get to that in about 45 seconds, but first I want to let you know what else I'm going to be talking about in this video. So it's been over a week now since people have been able to order their OLEDs, which means that most people that have ordered their OLEDs should actually have them in their hands by now. And that means two things. First of all, I have my limited edition 1TB OLED Steam Deck. I'm going to tell you all about it and why maybe I may be returning it. It also means that people have their glossy screen, and we got to settle the debate about which is better, glossy or the anti-glare etch display. Maybe. We'll see. There's also some weird but fascinating dbrand drama I want to talk about, and there's only one day left in the Steam Autumn sale, so I'm going to give you my last minute recommendations there. Let's get into all of it, starting with that small but critical update. So of course, the first Steam Deck OLED I received was a review unit, which means that I received it a little bit before the launch date, and that means that it wasn't quite ready for public use yet. As a result, there was at least one feature that Valve was advertising that was missing from my testing with the Steam Deck OLED, and that was Wake on Bluetooth. Wake on Bluetooth is of course something that's been available on consoles for a few generations now, but it's also something that has been seen as virtually impossible on PC, and that kind of continues the trend of Valve or Steam or Steam Deck accomplishing things on PC that was previously deemed impossible. Still though, what makes the Switch so good is that it's both a great handheld and a great system when it's docked, and Wake on Bluetooth is really a critical feature if you want that fully docked experience. If you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, I mean the ability to wake the Steam Deck up using a Bluetooth controller, and that is now possible but only on Steam Deck OLEDs. This is due in large part to the upgraded network adapter, which comes with better Wi-Fi and better Bluetooth functionality. So yeah, this experience has been pretty seamless for me with the latest update. If you have a Bluetooth controller paired to the Steam Deck and your Steam Deck is put into sleep mode, well, when you power on that Bluetooth controller, it's also going to power up your Steam Deck OLED. I tried this, like I said, with a Steam Deck LCD as well, and this Steam Deck LCD is updated to the latest SteamOS 3.5.7, and it still wasn't working. Of course, I wasn't expecting it to work since this was advertised as a Steam Deck OLED feature, but I thought it was worth a try anyway. You just never know if this was something that they were able to implement in the previous Steam Deck. So by the way, I do want to issue warnings for some common issues I've seen. Some of these apply to various models of Steam Deck, so I'll let you know for each of these issues. First is a boot menu problem. For all Steam Decks, I believe if you update past 3.5.5, you may end up with a boot menu that looks a little bit different and you're unable to navigate with a control pad. This boot menu is actually something I've been meaning to make a video about because it's actually helpful, but it's not helpful in this scenario. You may have to plug in a wired keyboard to get past this, but if you do have a wired keyboard, that should get you beyond this screen. And for Steam Deck OLED, some people are having problems with Wi-Fi actually. It's hard to tell how widespread this actually is, but there are some posts in the Steam Deck forums going over these issues, including slow download speeds, inability to connect to their routers, and being unable to force the 5 GHz band. Another issue that's been passed on to me from the Steam forums are dead pixels. According to one post in there, it does seem to be more prevalent towards limited edition models which have the BOE panels as opposed to the Samsung panels. I'm going to leave two links in the description in case you want to see if this is happening to you. One is to see which panel you have so that you can find out if you have the BOE panel or the Samsung panel, and the other link is just to test dead pixels. So you can navigate that from your Steam Deck to see if you have an affected Steam Deck. One more issue I saw was posted on Twitter by the Deckverse, and this is an issue where Steam Deck OLEDs may not be powering your USB devices like your NVMe enclosures. Timo from the Deckverse points out that you can fix this by going into the BIOS, then going to USB configuration, dual role device, and changing that from DRD to XHCI. Hopefully Valve is able to fix all of these issues soon. Speaking of things Valve hopefully fixes soon, there are reports that the power LED is actually too bright on the limited edition Steam Deck OLED because of that translucent shell. Pierre-Loup from Valve has said that they are working on an update to let users control the intensity of their power LED, so that should be helpful, especially for those limited edition users. So look out for that coming soon. Speaking of all that, I do want to share my impressions of the limited edition Steam Deck. That translucent shell and the orange accents are really, really nice. And if you are in the market for a brand new Steam Deck, then yeah, maybe it is worth $50 extra or so to go with the limited edition. But I know that for me and a lot of viewers on my channel, you guys already have Steam Decks. So for you guys, I really want to recommend this X-Ray skin from today's sponsor, dbrand. Dbrand skins are always top notch when it comes to quality. As a result, they really leave your Steam Deck feeling fresh. This drop, by the way, came right on time because just like the limited edition, this skin gives an awesome look at the internals of the Steam Deck. What's even more awesome is that for a limited time, they're going to give you 2 for 1. You can get both the light X-Ray skin and the dark X-Ray skin for $29.95, which is amazing. And I'm always a fan of this motif. In fact, a while ago, I had the teardown skin on my Steam Deck, and even now, I still have the teardown case on my phone. Have you guys heard about this crazy dbrand drama, by the way? Apparently, Casetify completely ripped off dbrand's teardown skin and passed it off as their own. The original teardown skins were actually developed in collaboration with YouTuber Jerry Rig Everything, and they had all these little Easter eggs that are not on the original hardware. Like, I looked at my iPhone case and it says 1111 milliamp hours. Turns out that's an Easter egg representing dbrand's founding date of November 11th, 2011. Anyway, so dbrand brought all these receipts and now they're suing Casetify, which is a $1 billion company, by the way. As a result, we found out that Casetify has been stealing other designs like this one from iFixit. So all of that to say, that is part of why dbrand are launching their own X-Ray skin. Check it out at dbrand.com/fandedeck. Thanks to dbrand for making 6 skins, fighting against thieves, and for sponsoring this video. Shout out to dbrand. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about this limited edition Steam Deck. Like I mentioned, it does have these gorgeous orange accents all throughout. The screws themselves are a really nice touch and not something I was expecting, but there's also the back grille, the top grille, the power button, of course, as is the same on the Steam Deck OLED, and the analog sticks. All of that is really cool, and the translucent shell gives a little detail, but not a whole bunch, right? Like you can see the battery behind here. So you can see some things, but you can't see everything. I think that's a nice touch. Of course, I think that this limited edition Steam Deck looks really, really good. The power LED is a problem. It is currently really, really bright, and that really comes through with that translucent shell, as I was mentioning earlier. All in all, I have a decision to make. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this Steam Deck OLED or I'm going to keep the other Steam Deck OLED. At this point, I do want to stick to just one Steam Deck. Here's what I will say. This Steam Deck was meant to be limited edition, meaning very limited inventory. A lot of the reasoning for that was that this was a test, right? They wanted to see whether or not this was successful enough to launch more colorways on their site and however else they're selling Steam Decks throughout the world. So in that regard, I do hope it sells well so that other people have a chance to buy something like this. For what it's worth, this is still available on the Steam Deck site, of course, in the regions that it launched in, meaning US and Canada. But I really do hope that they sell kits for this because I don't think that a person should have to go out and buy a brand new Steam Deck if they already own a Steam Deck to have the access to these limited colorways. So I do hope they sell kits for the analog sticks, for the shell replacements, assuming that people actually want to go through the work of doing that. If they do want to go through that work, then at least they would have that option to do so instead of having to buy a brand new Steam Deck and sell their old one. So yeah, that's my final verdict on the limited edition Steam Deck. I think it looks awesome, but being someone that is not necessarily huge on cosmetics, I'm leaning towards sticking with my review unit and sending this one back for a return. Of course, when it comes to Steam Deck OLED versus Steam Deck OLED Limited Edition, that is just cosmetics, right? But the other thing that happened this week is that people got their 512GB OLEDs, which means we got to see some comparisons between the glossy screen and the anti-glare etch display. Two of my favorite YouTubers, Taki Udon and Retro Game Core, both made videos about this, and I'll be honest, between the two videos and unlike these OLED displays, the whole thing is left about as clear as mud. While there is a tangible difference, Taki and Russ both came to different conclusions. Taki seemed to favor the anti-glare and Russ seemed to favor the glossy display. Taki said that in low light conditions there's virtually no difference, and Russ said that in low light conditions the glossy display does take the lead. Taki pointed out the effect of the diffusion from the anti-glare display and did show conditions where that may be annoying, and both showcased how this diffusion would help reduce reflections, which is really nice in really bright scenarios. Rust also showed some comparisons at the macro level with a 10x zoom, and that was really helpful because to me, I don't see a lot of difference even when really zoomed in like this. So for me, I'm perfectly happy with the anti-glare because it does help me in the studio situation where I have bright lighting and things like that. If you haven't seen these videos by now, I will leave links in the description. Hopefully they can help you make your decision if you haven't already done so. All right, let me rapid fire you some last minute recommendations for the Steam Autumn Sale because we do have about 24 hours left before it ends. Here's how I approached it. I wanted to give you 10 games less than $100 total, so it averaged out to $10 per game. Of course, I'm going to be the person that focuses on hidden gems, so these are really good games, but maybe games that you haven't heard of. And then lastly, I wanted to focus on great value, so these are games that are either at their historical lows or close to their historical lows. All right, let's get into these 10 games, starting with the cheapest, making our way up to the most expensive. The first up is Talos Principle at $3. It's 90% off. This is basically the historical low on Steam. This is one of my favorite games ever. It's a first-person puzzler, and I really recommend it if you're into puzzle games. Of course, if you're not, then this is tough to recommend. But as far as puzzle games go, this is one of the best out there. Next up is Hunt Down. Hunt Down is $4. That's 80% off, and that is absolutely the historical low. So this is a 2D action platformer. The pixel art is really detailed, which is impressive, but this is a 2D action platformer that is a bit more methodical than like a Mega Man or something like that, where kind of every bullet counts, and I really enjoyed my time with this. I got a lot of replay value out of it. Honestly, at $4, this is a no-brainer. All right, coming up to $4.54, the next game is Killbug. Killbug is a game that is a lot like Devil Daggers. It's sort of an endless arcade style, small arena, first person shooter that really ramps up the intensity the better you get. It has these awesome movement mechanics where you can dash and wall run and just feel like you're flying the entire time. It plays well on the Steam Deck. It does play well on a control pad, even though it is a fast paced first person shooter. I found it to be really, really good on a control pad. So definitely check that out for 35% off. Again, the historical low for this one. Moving up to $5, this one is a classic for the channel. You see me play it on almost every hardware review that I do. It's Grapple Dog. It's $5, 66% off, which is close to the historical low. And my only complaint about this game is that it doesn't have Steam Cloud Save, but this is a really charming, and it does this awesome job of balancing easygoing platforming with some optional levels that can get pretty challenging. And again, that just leads to really good replay value for this title. Now for $6, you can pick up Hot Wheels Unleashed. This is 85% off. This is the historical low for this title. This is great on Steam Deck, and if you just like arcade style racing, I can't think of a better title to have on the Steam Deck. Again, really good replay value, which is something I'm going to harp on for all the games in this list. All right, for $10, I do have a weird one. It's called, fittingly, Weird West. It's 75% off. It's close to the historical low. This is an immersive sim made by immersive sim veterans that previously worked at Arcane Studios, so they definitely know what they're doing. Interestingly, here, the immersive sim is isometric, but I think that fits really well on the Steam Deck and really gives you a lot of freedom to have really creative solutions to problems in this game. I really enjoyed my time with this. I highly recommend it. Definitely check it out for $10. Ender Lilies deserves a mention among other classic indie Metroidvanias like Hollow Knight, Ori, and Axiom Verge. It's really that good and genuinely underrated and underappreciated. It also introduces some light Souls-like mechanics. Best of all, it has really awesome production value with the art, the music, the atmosphere that's provided, and the story. And it's currently 50% off, which is the historical low, so you can pick it up now for just $12.50. Next up is one of my favorite games of all time. Neon White is $15, 40% off. That's pretty close to the historical low of about $12. But again, this is one of my favorite games of all time. It's going to go high on my recommendations. It's a time trial based first person shooter. So the idea, of course, is to get where you're going as fast as possible and take out the baddies in your way. There's also this narrative element, which has been kind of divisive. Some people really hate it. Some people really love it. It gives me some Persona vibes. I enjoyed it personally. I especially enjoyed the change of pace it provided, since otherwise you're kind of in this white knuckle scenario, and this gives you a little break to get to know the characters and things like that. Also $15 is another candidate for one of my favorite games of all time, Outer Wilds. It's 40% off. And if you've heard anything about Outer Wilds, then you probably know that I can't say too much about it without spoiling some of the things that make this game so great. This is one of those detective style games like Return of the Obra Dinn. I think what I will say about it is that you really get to explore a facsimile of space that feels real and genuinely captures both the scary side of space exploration and just the wonder of space exploration. So consider picking this one up. Like I said, it's $15 and one of my favorite games of all time. The last game I'll recommend isn't a huge discount at 25% off, but it did come out this year. This is the historical low, and it may personally be my game of the year so far. It's Pizza Tower at $15. Pizza Tower is another speed running game. This time it's a 2D platformer. Of course, it plays super well on Steam Deck. It's one of my favorite games to play on Steam Deck, and it's kind of high intensity the entire time. So if you're looking for something more chill, definitely check out Grapple Dog, which I mentioned earlier. But if you like that challenge and if you like that intensity, Pizza Tower is really the way to go. And like I said, one of my favorite games this year, right up there with Baldur's Gate 3. All right, that's going to do it for my recommendations. That was 10 games in 5 minutes, so I went through that as quickly as I could. Definitely check those out. But otherwise, I hope you're having a wonderful week. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this week's news, including the Wake on Bluetooth, SteamOS 3.5.7, dbrand, the limited edition, and matte versus glossy. It's been a pretty cool week, which has been a little unexpected for me. But yeah, let me know what you think. Deck Gang out. Goodbye.